First of all, New Mexico is a forgotten state. I think that everybody knows about Arizona, Colorado, and Texas, and they know that there's borders, but they forget that there's this big, beautiful land of enchantment in the middle of all that. And we're not heavily populated, but we have a beautiful landscape that no other state has.
I'd like to introduce Jeree Tomasi, Senior Loan Officer with New Mexico Mortgage Advisors. I'm happy to have Jeree with me today to launch this first podcast. Well, I guess technically it's not the first podcast because I did my first one, but as my first guest. I truly can't think of a better first guest. Jeree is an Albuquerque native and a proud University of New Mexico Lobo. Yay, go Lobos. And she spent the last 3 decades in the mortgage industry right here in our community. Over the years, she's helped guide more than 1,000 New Mexico families into homeownership, which is pretty incredible when you think about the impact of that and how many lives and families she's affected. Jeree and I have worked together for quite some time now, and I can genuinely say that she brings so much care and attention to what she does. One of the reasons why I work with Jeree is because of that love and attention. We're very similar with that, where we make our customers our primary focus, as it should be. She takes the time to educate her clients, to really understand their situation, and to treat each person as an individual, never just a number on a spreadsheet. She truly cares about the people she works with and about serving the Albuquerque community, and that's exactly the kind of voice I wanted to highlight on this podcast. So welcome, Jeree. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Before we jump into anything too formal, I think it would be nice to just start with a little bit of your story, because one of the things I love about Albuquerque is how many people here have these really layered connections to the city, whether they're from here or choose to live here, build their life here. And you really have both that professional history and the very personal family connection. So I'd love for you just to tell a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and what kept you here, and what Albuquerque means to you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to share my story, to share what I love about Albuquerque, and to highlight some of the things that have kept me here. I'm a native. I was born here at St. Joe's Albuquerque downtown when it was still a little bitty hospital. And I've been here ever since. I've never lived anywhere else. I've called the Heights my stomping grounds, I guess you'd say. And then I went on to college at the University of New Mexico, where I met my future husband. And we were college sweethearts. We've been married 42 years now. And we just built a life here. My husband was a federal government employee, which kept us here. I didn't move around. And I guess every time I leave Albuquerque, I miss it. It's when you call a place home, as long as I have, you can enjoy the differences of different cities, but you always yearn for home, which I do. I have been in the mortgage industry since 1984, just a newbie. Cut my teeth on mortgage banking, then started a family, went back to work part-time, and then grew into full-time once my kids were grown up and did not need me to be there 24/7 for them. And I just continued to build my little network of realtors that I love to work with, and trusted partners that saw me work in the industry and then kept me in business, because that's how the referral business is, how we professionals stay in business and continue to help people. So my family, my Hindi family, my maiden name's Hindi, my grandfather immigrated from Lebanon. And so he crossed over the ocean and signed on Ellis Island, and my grandmother, they built a life here in a small little town called Duran, New Mexico, amassed a ranch, and it was a sheep and cattle ranch. And then my dad's generation moved into Albuquerque. My dad was a Sandia National Labs employee for his career. So that's kind of my story. My husband as well, his grandparents immigrated from Italy. We have on both sides of my little family, we have some of that immigration story that built this country, which is for sure we'll be a part of.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's so much of the American story is that it's folks that have immigrated and made different nooks in this country theirs, you know, and
brought their skills, brought their talents, and built it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. It's a good story. It's a lot of pride there. I think we've chatted about this before, that on my mom's side, my grandparents immigrated from Sicily. So there's definitely that connection. And I always, there's watching that and watching folks build a life in this country it can be really a beautiful thing. So yeah, a lot of pride there. So how did you end up in the mortgage business? Why did you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
That's a good question. Why is a good question. Why do you do what you do? Why do you choose to invest and build something? And I can honestly say it's because I saw the need to help people. Back in the beginning of my career, I saw that a lot of people were just a file. They were just papers in a folder. That's, of course, back in the days when we had facsimiles and not much computer work, but you didn't get to really invest in the story of the person themselves. And homeownership is a huge commitment. It's a huge purchase and a life-changing event in people's lives. And I saw some not common sense business practices being forced upon these people who had no idea what was going on, no idea what their options were. And so I just felt a need to invest in the industry that helps build families, because that's a very important part of my life is my family. So being a homeowner comes with a lot of responsibility, and getting into the financing of it, you have to live with that mortgage payment every day, every month. And it was very important to me. I have an education background that I wanted to educate potential home buyers or refinance people who already are home buyers, homeowners, and just let them know what their options are, let them know that there's people out there like me that really do care about giving them what's best, giving them their best options, instead of just having them follow on a leash. It's their decision. It's their financial impact that they need to know. And I moved into the broker world very early into my career after coming back into the workforce after starting a family. The mortgage broker world gives the clientele such options that they don't even know. And so it's like insurance. So you go shopping, your mortgage broker goes shopping, your insurance broker goes shopping for you. And so that's kind of where I landed and stayed. And I've been very happy in that industry.
I think that's something good to touch on. If you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit about the difference, like you said, you started off as a mortgage banker and now you're a mortgage broker. What are the differences, and how does you being a mortgage broker help benefit the public?
As an employee of a bank, you sell their products. It's retail. It really is. Credit unions and banks are retail. I'm wholesale. I work for a client. I have worked with many different mortgage companies on the wholesale channel around the country, and all they do are mortgages. They don't do checking accounts and auto loans and CDs. They strictly are there to facilitate people buying houses and financing houses. And so because they don't have to come here and set up a retail shop, they can offer lower interest rates and lower fees that can be passed on to the consumer. And so my clients trust me to take their information, look at their credit, get them pre-qualified, get them ready for purchase. Then I let the realtor, whoever they're working with, know, yes, they're ready to go. They can get a loan for whatever house they've applied for and pre-qualified for. And when we're under contract, that's when I actually go finalize which lender are they going to work with. Because every day those lenders change their rates. It's just like the stock market. And consumers don't know that. They just walk into a bank and they're told, this is the product, this is the rate, take it or leave it. Yeah. And they really do have a bigger menu than they realize, but it's not well known in the finance world that brokers really do offer better options to consumers.
I've noticed over the years too, it seems to be like the closing costs are always cheaper, less expensive. And I think that's important for consumers to know. It's so often they'll shop like, oh, but they're going to give me this interest rate. And it's, until you're under contract, you don't really know what your interest rate's going to be. Right. And what are they charging you to get there? So it's important to don't just look at interest rate, also look at what it's costing you. Like, look at your closing cost. Is it really a better interest rate if you're being charged $10,000 a point to get you there? And it may be better that if you're going to be in that house for a long time.
If that's what you want, yes.
Yeah.
But just know know. That's what the interest rate game is all about, is don't dangle interest rates. Let's talk about the whole picture. Because again, just like a stock, today it's one price, tomorrow it's going to be a different price. And no, you can't get yesterday's price. And so the question when the consumers are working with a banker or a broker is, what's your interest rate and how much does it cost? And what are your fees to get my loan? Because it's the lender fees that differ. Now, title fees, appraisal fees, what your property taxes are going to be and your insurance, that has nothing to do with your lender. It's the cost for the loan itself. And that's how I educate my clients, is just give them all of the information and let them make that financial decision for themselves.
That's one of the many things I love about working with you is the education. And I'm not sure if Jeree would want me to say, if you want me to say this or not, but I've had folks come and already be pre-qualified and I haven't been sure. It's this, are you really getting the best deal? Because I want to make sure that when folks come and they're pre-qualified, that again, they're getting the best closing cost as well as interest rate that they can get. And I love Jeree because she doesn't trade it. If they really are getting a better deal, which is not very often, she'll say, no, you need to take that and run, go with it. And so I really respect that about you and appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Well, honesty in this business is very, I just feel like transparency when you're talking dollars and cents to people is the best practice.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think has changed the most in the lending industry since you got started?
I touched on it, facsimiles, and it took 2 weeks to get a credit report. It took paper files that had to be FedExed to lenders to then be reviewed, to today where everything is just automated, digitized, and you can even close online with a mobile notary. So a lot has happened. The regulations that were put in place after the 2008 market crash, which I believe in some respects was necessary. Absolutely. There were some poor, bad actors out there that were taking advantage of consumers. But whenever you get Congress involved to regulate an industry, it's going to cause the consumer bottom line. It just costs more because now you have oversight and everybody has to get paid. And so that trickles down into consumers' wallets. Licensing I think has been important for licensed brokers, licensed bankers, although, and I can tell you just matter of factly, although I'm a broker, the regulations are written such that they benefit the bankers. They don't really level the playing field between bankers and brokers. Brokers have to go above and beyond what bankers don't have to, even though we all provide basically the same service. But they really targeted the brokers in that. It cleaned up a lot of the bad actors and got rid of anybody that just wanted to hang a shingle and say, hey, I'll lend you money. And then, of course, we have people that we're taking advantage of. So some good and bad, but all in all, we're still lending money out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what do you think makes helping people buy a home different here than in other places, if anything?
I think Albuquerque has been more affordable than most places in the country. Our property taxes have been low. I know I have some friends that were in Texas and they had very low house payments. Values were lower, and this is back in the 90s and 2000s. But their property taxes were $20,000 and $30,000, whereas ours were $2,000 to $4,000. It's the big picture. It's what does a house cost you? It doesn't just cost you to borrow the money. It costs you to pay the taxes and to insure it and to maintain it. And so it's really different in every city and every state. There's going to be a difference. But I do feel that Albuquerque has been very affordable for a very long time. We're starting to catch up with some of those inflated prices, although I don't personally think that we're going to see another bubble. I don't think that the same conditions are present.
I agree with you on that. And I get asked that a lot. The price is going to drop. And our inventory has stayed low, right? Mm-hmm. The Albuquerque market would have at least 3,000 houses on the market to 3,600. And we haven't seen that since 2019. Right now, we're still floating about 2,200. And unless our inventory just goes up massively, I think that it's going to stay, we're still increasing, but at healthier amounts, like healthier percentages than we did a few years ago. So I think that somehow, knock on wood, I think that we avoided that bubble, and I think that's mostly because of supply and demand. which also, it is hard. And I do think that you're right. We didn't go gangbusters like a lot of cities did with our pricing. And then I do think it is hard for some folks in Albuquerque there because prices or pays haven't kept up with our prices. And so hopefully with it going up a little slower, that will balance out without having to have that bubble, because the bubble or the crash is not going to help anybody either.
I can remember a time when the median sales price was 150 to 200,000. It's almost double that now. In a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So the appreciation that the COVID crisis triggered, we jumped up. The normal appreciation is 3 to 5% a year, and we saw 10 and 15, 18% in a year. That wasn't real. That was a real thing. And so I think we've slowed down definitely from that. But again, that big jump just caused a lot of the impact. We're still feeling it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what are we seeing right now with interest rates and how they're impacting buyers here locally?
Here, let me get my crystal ball.
Mine doesn't work. It's broke.
It's been a long time. Because we used to be able to, there were benchmarks that we could see in the market of, okay, if this over here, the bond over here is doing this, or unemployment's doing this over here, that's going to impact rates adversely or not. And that's still true. All that's come out the window now. The market, it's a global market now, whereas before it was just what's going on in our little country and GDP, and it's just not that anymore. Interest rates they're better than they were in 2022. So that's good. It's taken a little bit of time to ease that interest rate world and the problem, this is my personal opinion, the problem with the Fed Reserve driving our interest rates is that they're looking in the rearview mirror. They're not looking ahead. They're very reactionary versus let's plan for the future. Let's set this up for. They're just responding to inflation or recession fears or global markets. So I think that the political world that we live in, that's just our reality. And the economists don't have as much say in what they should have a say in. So that's our burden.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like, I guess I hadn't thought about it in that sense of, okay, so instead of reacting to what's going on right now, what is it that we want in the future and how should we adjust for that? Instead of, you're right, it is looking in the
short-sighted, I feel. Short-sighted.
Yeah. So how do you think our market differs for first-time home buyers versus move-up buyers from your perspective, if at all?
I think that we're very flexible in what we offer, the variety of homesteads that we offer. Some markets are just known for, they're just high dollar prices, or they're just old and rundown neighborhoods, and it's very hard to find something in the middle. I think we have a good variety in that. We have the older part of town, we have new neighborhoods that are being built all the time, but we also have neighborhoods that are being revitalized and upgraded. The school districts really drive a lot of that too, because in good school districts, you get families continuing to move in and continuing to improve properties and then passing them on to the next family. So I think all in all, we have a good selection.
Yeah.
All across the city.
I agree. And people making decisions of neighborhoods and type of homes and everything that suits them. You're right. I do think we've got that good variety from, I want something with 1920s character to I don't want anything older than 4 years old.
We have
all of them have their purpose for sure. So are there any Albuquerque or New Mexico specific loans or opportunities you'd like to share, or any niche loans that you'd like folks to know about?
That's a good question about the loan options that are out there. What I see a lot of are down payment assistance for first-time home buyers to get into the homeownership market. And it's been hard to keep good savings and put some good down payment. And so there are down payment assistance loans that are not specific to New Mexico, but all across the country they're offered. Credit is so important. People's credit ability to borrow money, whether it's for a car or for a house, credit is everything. And I just can't stress that enough anytime I have the opportunity to educate people is keep your credit clean. And I understand things can be difficult, but money makes the world go round, and we just have to be good stewards with what we do have in order to be able to better our situation. There are what's called DSCR loans out there, a debt service coverage ratio, is for investors. So a lot of times you have self-employed people who are wanting to purchase property, turn them into investment properties, but they might not always qualify based on the traditional guidelines. And that product is really great because it's basically looking at just the property itself. Can the potential income for that property service the debt, service the mortgage on it? But again, that individual has to have good credit. We don't look at your income. We don't look at the debts that they have, other debts. We don't look at any other properties that they own. It's strictly, do you have good credit, and will this property command the rents that needs to cover the mortgage? And at what ratio is that?
Yeah.
And then there's also what is called in the industry non-qualified mortgage loans. When the 2008 regulations started coming out of Dodd-Frank, the Fannie and Freddie powers that be determined that there needs to be a definition of a qualified mortgage in order for them to purchase them from the service of the lenders out there. And so when Fannie and Freddie, every lender underwrites to Fannie and Freddie guidelines so that they can sell the loan back to Fannie and Freddie and get more money to then continue lending. If it's not a qualified mortgage, lenders don't want to lend any money. So there's a newer market out there called non-QM loans, and they're for the people that, again, self-employed, they have bank statements that show that they do have income, but it just doesn't translate on their tax returns, or they just go outside of the guidelines for whatever reason. I had one client who had inherited a good amount of money into savings, and he wanted to purchase a larger home, had a good wage, but he didn't qualify and he didn't have hardly any debt. But I couldn't turn that money stashed away in the bank into income like you can in retirement years because he was 40 years old. And so I had to do a non-QM product for him to buy the bigger house that he wanted to, that he could afford. He had the money in the bank. He could actually pay cash for it. Mm-hmm. But so it just didn't fit into Fannie and Freddie's guideline. So we had to go outside it and get him a little bit different product, but he could still buy the house. And it was only about a half a point higher in interest rate than he would have if he qualified traditionally. So there's a lot of products out there.
Is it possible then, like on those, like if he's a little bit higher and let's say interest rates go down, how hard is it to refinance one of those type of loans, or is it any different?
It's not hard to refinance it at all. It's refinancing into a conventional product or an FHA product out of a real estate contract or a non-QM loan or anything is, as long as you can on the new loan meet the guidelines. It's easy. Yeah. But again, in his case, I'm educating him on, okay, this is what you need to do to set up, maybe getting some additional income through those assets, setting it up through trust, get some trust income. There's other ways to do it to get him back into a conventional product. But he got a good rate, and he still got in the low sixes, which my first house was almost 11%. And when I was in the industry, when I first started in the industry, we were at 13 to 15% interest rates. So
I know it's the same thing when you hear people say, "Oh my God, it's at 6.5." It's like anything really under 8 isn't that? That's what I'd read. I don't know the last few years if that's still the case, but anything under 8% is below the average for U.S. mortgages interest rate. It's like that's what the average is in our history.
And back when they were in 2s and 3s and 4s, they should have been in the 6s and the 7s. So they were artificially low for a very long time. So we got spoiled. Yeah. And people are holding on to those houses a little bit more because they have that great rate. So they're not being as transient in changing mortgages and houses right now.
Yeah. Partial reason why our inventory is low.
Yep.
They're holding on to me, but they have to, like, for life situations, have to move for whatever reason. If they don't have to sell, they're holding on to those and or doing whatever it is they need to do. I'm going to go back to what you talked about with credit, because it is 100%. I work sometimes with folks that are moving here from other countries for jobs or whatever, or just weren't American born. And so credit is very different. Like I remember had this engineer from France, and he was like, "Credit, we don't have credit. I don't know credit," and that's understandable. If you've ever heard me rant about like in home economics, let's forget that, which is important, the sewing and cooking, but let's also teach credit.
Each credit, let's teach how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, and life happens, right? Sometimes medical, students, whatever. You got laid off or whatever, and you've been working to rebuild that, and you've got your job back on track and all the things. Tell us like what it is that we can do to get our credit up there to buy. Like,
It's pretty easy to build credit. There are ways to build credit in a pretty short amount of time. I'm not talking 30 days. I'm talking 6 months, which is if you haven't built credit and you're asking somebody to lend you hundreds of thousands of dollars, we have to be reasonable and understand that they're going to ask us to show a proof of good paying history. And so I teach my clients how to build their credit without getting into debt. And I'm not an advocate of opening up a bunch of credit cards and running them up. But you do have to establish a credit profile that shows these lenders that you have credit offered to you that you're not using all of it. So you don't max out your credit cards. And I'm not saying you have to pay them off every month either, but just keep them under the 35% is the magic number for your credit limit.
okay.
Go under 35% of that as far as balance goes month to month, or have a few that are a little bit spread out so that you can keep those under 35%. And don't just think that you have to clean up your credit and close a bunch of credit cards either. Because again, if there's a lot of credit available to you that you're not using, that actually translates to better credit scores than if you just have one credit card or two credit cards that are 50% and that's it. You don't have a lot of room in that credit limit. So again, that's part of it. We can use alternative credit documents, and those are things like utility bills. If you have a utility bill in your name that you've been renting an apartment, but you've paid that with a good 12-month payment history, we can send all those documents into the credit bureaus and say, here, build this credit profile using these documents. So that's alt docs. Even gym memberships or your streaming services can do that for you. Car insurance. There's times I work with younger buyers who've been living with mom and dad, and so they don't have utility bills. But they've been paying their car insurance because mom and dad made me pay my own car insurance. It's that kind of, I take a good amount of time at the beginning of meeting somebody to determine where they are, where they want to go, and let's find a way to get there.
Awesome. Yeah. So another thing I like working about with you is that it's always not if, but when, and saying, okay, here's going to be your path forward if you can't do it right now.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important. There's also the rapid rescore. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Rapid rescores are such that when we pull a credit report, it's a snapshot in time. And so even if you pay off your credit cards monthly, but on the day that they report to the bureaus, which is once a month, there's a balance on your account. And that's putting you over the 35%, or it's too close to the credit limit, but you pay it off every month. And so that really doesn't tell the full picture. We can actually take documentation to show that's been paid down and send it into the bureaus and ask them to rescore based on this newer information that's in between that reporting period. And a lot of times we have some success with that. Or if there's some erroneous information, and it takes time to clean up a credit report that's got some errors on it. But we're trying to get things done in a pretty short amount of time. So we can, again, send them some documentation saying, hey, this is reporting erroneously or derogatorily, and that's not true. They sent me a letter that says we shouldn't be reporting that. Here's the document. Please rescore. So there's times that is necessary.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I've seen over the years too is don't assume. I always send people to you. Don't just, I need to pay off this car, or I need to pay off my credit card bill, or what have you, because that's going to help me. And it's always talk to Jeree first.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've seen where it's, that messed something up, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
yeah,
Like closing all your credit cards because you think that's going to help your credit.
yeah,
And it's actually, I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but, and I work with a local guy here that you have to be very careful with credit repair agencies. But I've had very good success with one individual in this city that has been doing it for over 30 years, maybe even 40. And he doesn't charge monthly, which is the scam that all these other places do. They charge you monthly and they keep you on the hook for a year. They just throw out a bunch of letters and put everything in dispute, which is not good. When we pull a credit report and we see a bunch of dispute, we have to address that. They allow for one dispute, but that's it. He works with people, and I've seen in a very short amount of time, if they do what he says, he gets them where they need to be. And he'll be straight forward with them and say, this didn't happen overnight. The fix isn't going to be overnight. But if you'll do it this way, in this time frame, we will see improvement.
yeah. Like I said, not if, but when. Yeah.
I'm in it for the long haul. I have clients that I worked with for 2 years before they were ready. Life happens. They had a path forward. They were working hard, but something happened. It just happens. But I'm here. I'm here for my clients. That's the way you are, Jennifer. You are interested in what their needs are and meeting those needs, not just pushing them into the quickest sale that you can so you can move on. That's not you.
No, not at all. Like you said, we're in it for the relationship, for the long haul. And it is, I think that's one reason I do it is because there's this, that's your goal. Okay. Let me help you. I get it about that.
I have tools. I have people building a network around us.
Yeah. I know. It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And it's fulfilling for sure.
It is.
Well, I appreciate all your information and all your knowledge, and got a few questions about Albuquerque because that's what we're doing. Is we're Albuquerque centric, we're New Mexico centric, right? So, what's something about Albuquerque that people from the outside often misunderstand?
First of all, New Mexico is a forgotten state. I think that everybody knows about Arizona, Colorado, and Texas, and they know that there's borders. But they forget that there's this big, beautiful land of enchantment in the middle of all that. And we're not heavily populated, but we have a beautiful landscape that no other state has. We have people that make up our community that no other state does. Family is very important to the cultures here. We have the Indian culture, heavily Native American, and the Hispanic culture, which is a mix of Mexican and Spanish. That's Hispanic, and that's not really well known. Everybody thinks that you're just a Mexican. No, there's deep history in New Mexico of Spaniards coming and settling here. And the food, the New Mexican food, is not Mexican food. And you can't get it anywhere else. So there's that, the cultures, and I think that with those cultures comes very strong family ties. You take care of your young ones and you take care of your old ones. You don't discard anybody. And I think that's pretty unique. Haven't ever lived anywhere else, but I have family that's moved away and visited frequently, and I just don't find the same commonality of that kind of strong ties that I do here in Albuquerque. We are the land of mañana. We're kind of laid back. People in our community, they care about other individuals, and they smile in passing, and they make eye contact, and you need help with that? They're very engaging, and not all communities are like that.
I agree. I think we are very people centric for sure. And it feels good to be part of that for sure. Is there a place in Albuquerque that feels especially meaningful to you, be it a neighborhood, restaurant, coffee shop, trails?
No, the great thing about the neighborhoods in Albuquerque is that they've all has their own kind of little flavor. And so there's local eateries, and when you frequent them, the people know your name. So it's kind of like the Cheers bar, hey, Norm. But when you go to a place and the servers or the cashiers or whoever, they recognize you as a frequent customer, that makes you feel good and makes you feel like, yeah, I'm home. These are my people. We have great galleries. We have great museums. I think one of my favorite neighborhoods in town is down in the old Albuquerque Country Club area. It's one of the newest or one of the oldest outside of downtown, that's where everybody started. But I just really get a good feel in that neighborhood anytime I'm traveling through. I have some friends that live down there, and it's just, oh yeah, this is what a grand neighborhood. And it's not about the high dollar, because there are some high dollar houses over there, but the uniqueness of every single home. We have in some of the newer neighborhoods, the cookie cutter, the builder spec homes and all of that. But down there, it's every home is different. And I like that. And lots of space. They're not postage stamp lots. So I really like that neighborhood. We have great parks around the city that have just beautiful vegetation. Even though we're in the desert, we still have green here. And it's interesting. My daughter-in-law moved here a year and a half ago when my son and her brought her home after being in the military. And she's from Staten Island. So that's where she grew up. We met in San Diego. So they had that culture and vibe together. And then he was on the East Coast with military. So she visited here several times before she moved here. But it wasn't until she moved here that she realized, oh, it's dry, it's not humid, but it's beautiful. It has its own beauty in the native landscape here. And so that was seeing it through her eyes. That was kind of fun. Because he was all my life.
Yeah. We take it for granted. I always tease people moving here, but it's true. It's like the first 2 years, all you're going to do is stare at the mountains. Yeah. And it's different colors as the sun sets every night.
And this is a photograph above me. This is a photograph of our Rio Grande, our Grand River, with the bosque and the watermelon mountains behind it. This is Albuquerque.
Yeah, I'm glad you have that there. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I bought it down at one of the little stalls down in the sawmill area. The sawmill downtown where they've revitalized that area.
Yeah. Yeah, Sawmill's Sawmill's a great area. That's one of the, definitely something that's been up and coming, and I think that is definitely been welcomed and celebrated in Albuquerque. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The rail yards,
If you have a diverse mix of folks, like you got some picky eaters, some people that want this, some people want that, the Sawmill, because
that's for everybody.
What you want, come back and see together. So how has Albuquerque influenced your work?
I feel a sense of pride and ownership in my community because I'm a native Albuquerquean, and these are my people. And I grew up with very generous parents. We didn't have a lot, but what we did have, we shared. And so that's the values that I was raised with. And so what I have, what knowledge I have, what knowledge I've gained, if I can help people, that's what I want to do. And I think that the response that I've received through my clients through the years, their trust in me, the confidence that she did a good job for me, that she's going to help my son, who's now of age to go buy his first home, and his wife, or their first newlyweds or whatever. Or I have some friends moving in town, and I want you to take care of them. And do you have a good realtor? Yes, I work with some really wonderful realtors. And
that is special, right? When to work with sometimes our second generation folks that you helped when they were babies, and now helping them get their homes.
Yes, very satisfying.
Yeah. It's like you're part of that. You're part of that family.
I'm part of the story. It's part of the story.
Definitely part of that story. Yeah, I'm getting chills. I love it. So one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I think we already covered it, is what are hidden gems in Albuquerque? But I don't know if you want to share the garden and the BioPark, which I think is really special. Yeah. Is that your family connection?
So there is a space, the newest space in the BioPark is called the Lebanese Garden. They have done a wonderful job. The Addis family were so generous in donating the funds to cultivate that. And it took them a very short amount of time. Once they started, it was finished within 6 months. And we had the open house, and the mayor came, and my sister's on city council, and she brought some of her friends to highlight and showcase this part of the culture that, like I talked about earlier, the different diverse cultures that have built up the country have also built up the state. And so there's a pocket of Lebanese Arabs that have contributed to that. And so they brought in native plants from Lebanon and built a beautiful, there's water features and fire features, just all sorts of native plants that really are very similar, which my grandfather, when he came over, said that's why he homesteaded here, was this looks like home. And so that was something that attracted him. He was just a merchant community around him. He just built something great. And so you have people like the Gaddis family, the Kuris, the Malus, the Hindis, the Buttickers. They're just a very important part of our city and state.
Names that are very recognizable. I love the garden. I'm a park member, and I enjoy spending time there. And as I remember when it was finished, and just going and sitting there, it's very peaceful.
Very serene.
Yeah, herbs and everything. It's very nice. So, how has Albuquerque influenced your work? I think we may have covered that with so much of the talking about, I guess, is there anything else you want to share about that? Talking about that sense of community, helping your sometimes second generation client.
That because our community is so giving and caring as a whole, that it just makes you want to give back more. There's so many times that it might seem comfortable to just be self-centered and comfort in my own comfort zone and not sharing what I have or not investing in other people or in relationships. And I'm an introvert by personality. I've learned how to come out of my shell and share what I have. And but I think that the hearts of people here in Albuquerque, they're in it for the right reasons. They don't try and take advantage. They don't try and swindle. No, it's just a wholesome community here.
Yeah. A wise elder once told me, it's like, to open your heart to others heals your heart. And I think there is some of that. So if someone was visiting Albuquerque for the first time, what would you tell them they absolutely shouldn't miss?
The tram to the mountain, to the mountaintop at sunset. It's breathtaking. It is. It's a view that can't be replicated anywhere in the country. And my son-in-law is a wedding photographer, a professional wedding photographer, and he takes couples up there often and has some favorite locations to take their save the date photos or their engagement photos to really showcase the beauty of where they're living or where they met or where they're going to get married. But it really does showcase the beauty of the open space we have, the open skyline that we have. We don't have the Chicago skyline or the New York skyline with all the tall buildings and lights, but we have twinkle lights that are just natural to the humidity or this dust in the air. Yeah. So every night the twinkle lights come out because of the dust that creates the beautiful sunsets that we have, and it's breathtaking every night. And it's funny, again, my daughter-in-law, when she was out not living here, and we would so often just to try and keep in touch and send a photo of the sunset. Oh, look at this. This is what we saw tonight. Yeah. And it wasn't until she got here that she realized this is like an everyday occurrence. This isn't just like once every 6 months it happened, so you had to catch it on. No, this is like all the time.
Yeah, it's a different show every night.
Yeah,
it really is. Different colors, different. Yeah, it's so dramatic. It's beautiful.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. I love the tram as well, and that's one thing that I offer to my customers, right? Is tram passes, because I think it's something that you don't miss it.
Yep, and don't miss the New Mexican cuisine either. There's mom and pop places, not the food chains, but the real native New Mexican cuisine that we have at El Patron, Sadie's, El Pinto. Those are all great places to find the real cuisine that makes us unique.
I know you like to travel, and I don't know if this was on or when we were just chit-chatting about, like, you travel, but you always want to come back. You're always ready to come back to New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, after, oh gosh, I hadn't had green chili in 2 weeks, but I started to crave it. Yes. For sure. So what do you hope for Albuquerque? What do you hope it becomes in the next 10 to 20 years? What would you like to see?
I would like to see it more business friendly. I think that we've lost some really important infrastructure as far as businesses go because of our not being business friendly in a lot of ways and our policies. And that's been very unfortunate. And of course, politics plays into that nobody can control except at the voting booth, which is important. But if we can attract better businesses stronger businesses. That is only going to strengthen our community with better pay, more stable jobs instead of transient jobs. When I was in high school, we had what was called TVI, Technical Vocational Institute. And it was very popular among the students who weren't interested in maybe a 4-year college degree, but they wanted a trade. And I think we're losing that that part of education that's really important, because those trades, they're the backbone of our country and our city and our states, that we can't lose it. And
Yeah,
so I think business need to thrive here in order for our city and state to thrive.
yeah.
So that's my hope.
Yeah, I agree. We're in the future, we're going to have Dr. Marisa Juarez, and she is a chair over at CNM, is what TBI became. And we're going to talk about that, different things for Albuquerque and higher education and the things like that could help with your community. And 100%, I'm very, especially, so I grew up in small businesses and with my parents, and that's something that I highlight in the newsletters and outreach, because it's so important, and it keeps more money here.
Yeah. We had a family business that was impacted by politics and by the new latest and greatest. We had a very strong cab company that my uncle founded in 1976. And so we were 40 years strong. When the technology, the ride shares came into play, and they were completely unregulated, and driver safety or passenger safety was paramount. It was a highly regulated industry, and unfortunately, because the politics got in the way of what was best for the community. And of course, it was dear to my heart, but we transported the community, the elders to their doctor's appointments, the veterans to their places where they had to get therapies, Medicare and Medicaid. Those patients, they don't have cars. How are they going to get from one place to another? And they don't do the phone. They can't schedule. It was and you don't see taxis around the city anymore, because they're just, I don't know how the city's being taken care of. Their transportation needs are being taken care of, but it's important.
I hadn't thought about that. I knew about, that oftentimes folks on disability and such would get rides to doctor's appointments, things, and then it was covered, right? And the cab company was paid that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never thought about that, since the loss of cabs, that Lyft and Uber may not be handling that for them. So that's,
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
You're right. You don't see cabs.
Businesses are important.
Yeah.
Supporting small businesses and businesses that take care of the community, and the doctors that service the medical needs of the community. All of those things, I think we have suffered here needlessly. And I think it's an area that really does need to be paid attention to.
100%. I would like to see that change as well, especially in our medical care, so that everybody can have good medical care and services. And I don't know if that's necessarily just an Albuquerque problem or a U.S. problem, but it is definitely something that I think I'm looking forward to improving here, hopefully, for sure. Tell us about the last question. Thank you for indulging me here for the last hour. Tell me about, so let's talk about Legacy Ranch. I do a newsletter, right, that highlights a local clientele, local customers, local businesses, all things local and state. And so in the next couple months, we're going to highlight Legacy Ranch. So tell us about it.
Legacy Ranch. So Legacy Ranch is a beautiful 480-acre ranch that is in the East Mountains. It's off the Cedillo exit before you get to Edgewood. It's technically in Edgewood, but on the border of Torrance and San Bernardino County. And it was founded about 20 years ago by an outfit out of California, and they called it Founders Ranch, and they turned it into a world-class facility for single-action shooters. So they're the kind that dress up in the cowboys and the bells of the ball, and they built an old Western town, and they had competitions out there. That community is been aging out, and the owners and the founders of that facility, COVID shut them down, and then they were allowed to open for a short time, and it just didn't come back. And so they decided they're all aging, they're in their 80s, a few of them had passed, and they just needed to pass it along to the next generation, and they put it up for sale. This was the same time my son was getting out of the Marines, transitioning into civilian life, and he actually ran the Marine Corps shooting range on the East Coast. So he was raised with my husband, outdoorsman, shooting at Charlie's Sporting Goods, was my husband's uncle. So my husband was cut his teeth on outdoor recreation, and so Parker was in ROTC and was very familiar with firearms trainings, and he learned in the Marines how to operate a shooting range and also manage competitions. And so that's the next generation of the sport. And firearms, I know it's a controversial subject, but they are there. They are part of our constitutional rights. And knowing how to use them in a self-defense position, or just if you're a hunter, or you just want to get more proficient in handling and safe gun handling, safety is paramount.
100%.
That kind of a weapon. And so my son purchased it with some partners and is turning it into, we've had it for about a year and a half now, and he's turned it into a world-class operation that we've hosted regional and national competitions. He built an archery facility so that there's 3D archery. If you're one of the archery, if that's your passion, we have a place for you. Sporting clays, if you love shooting those pigeons, those clay targets, it even has a chapel on the property. So cleaned everything up after years of deferred maintenance and falling apart. And we now host weddings out there, and it's a beautiful event center, beautiful bridal space, and then for the grooms. We even have cows, longhorn cattle are out there, and alpacas are out there, and chickens and pigeon quail. So there's a lot of things going on. We're part of the community, and so we've heard from so many people out there that they were very excited when we reopened the gates, and they were skeptical at first. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you out here? What's your purpose? And they've seen the good faith effort of, we're here for the long haul. We're here to have a family-friendly facility. We have events on the holidays, 4th of July. I'm going to a cookie decorating class. There's training classes out there all the time for concealed carry, for that training. There's a lot of security companies that come out and train their security people. It's really serving the community well. And so I'm excited to share that with you and your clients. And Legacy Ranch events. You can find us on Instagram. Mostly Instagram is how they post all the things that are coming up.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to coming and visit and taking pictures and learning all about it. When you're talking about it, I was like, New Mexico it definitely is the Wild West. I think more so than other southwestern states, right? And I think that's part of that legacy, right?
That's why Parker named it Legacy. He said, I want to build something that's a legacy for my children, for future generations, to pass on his knowledge and his experience and his passion for the sport.
Yeah. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to coming out in a couple.
I'm excited. And it's even they even have filmed a short film out there. I don't know if it's gonna come out anytime soon, but because of the facade, the old Western facade out there, it's been a location for the film industry to shoot some things now and then.
Oh, very cool. Jeree, thank you for spending this time with us and sharing all the good mortgage stuff and how you feel about Albuquerque and New Mexico. And so, yes, I appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about my story and my skills and my craft, and just the beauty of Albuquerque that makes up our environment that we get to enjoy every day.
Yeah, it's definitely a special place. And so, yeah. If you want Jeree's contact information, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll pass it on, and for sure. So, well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you being my first guest. Okay. Thank you for listening to Living Albuquerque. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share it with someone who loves Albuquerque or is thinking about calling it home. Until next time, live well, live Burke.